You're live, your worship.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 6th Committee of the Whole meeting. Unfortunately, Mayor Irving can't be here this evening, so I will appear on his behalf. So let's get right into it. Can we have a motion to, or sorry, there's no amendments to the agenda, I don't think.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we have a motion to adopt the draft minutes from the regular meeting of May 23rd?
Make a
Motion to adopt the draft minutes of May 23rd.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, any comments? I didn't have any either. Okay, all in favor? Perfect. So can we get a motion to pay the open payables in the amount of $138,649.92?
I'll make a motion to pay the open payables in that amount.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
I just got one, and it's 61309.
09, that's our mosquito control.
Oh, okay.
Is that less than, quite a bit less than normal?
It goes in stages.
What,
Oh, okay.
what's 61299? What is that one about?
99, that is.
Scott
for
Allen.
Of the house.
So we are paying the rent?
We're paying the rent because we're also gonna rent part of it out to the engineers for the hydraulic construction.
Okay. And then when we.
How long is that for?
We've signed a 6-month lease.
Oh, that's just a lump sum.
No, this is multiple months rent and a damage deposit.
Okay, got you.
I was like, yeah, wow, okay.
No, I did a double take at it as well.
Okay, anything else? All in favor? Perfect. So next we have Jordan Stackhouse and Karen Furlong from Elevator Yukon to present on the Rapid Housing Initiative, and they're on the line with us. Hello.
Hey guys, long time no see.
I know.
We jetted back to Whitehorse. Originally we were going to stay and present in person, and actually I realized we talked a little bit about it last night. I didn't really have any more material to share, so I wanted to come back and I did a small presentation. I prepared a small presentation to kind of go over I guess what would be interesting to council as far as what we've learned so far about the Housing Accelerator Fund. I told Tiff that I didn't have a presentation, but I actually do. And I think I can just share my screen with you guys. Hold on, half a sec.
So we know who was driving, I guess, eh?
It was me.
Dictating the whole way, hey?
He
does all the work.
Okay, you guys can see that, eh?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'll just go through this. Like Cam may have let you know, it's like with many things regarding the federal government, it's a bit obtuse and a bit complicated. They make it sound complicated anyways, but we're going to just try to break it down to the brass tacks for you guys. And basically what direction that we'd be looking for at this point is the application that we want to put forward has to be a combination of 5 initiatives. Okay, so it's not just one single initiative. It's not just doing the idea about perhaps helping out with down payments or something like that. It's 5 different initiatives. So I have some ideas in here, which I'll go through, which I just pulled out of the literature that we were provided by CMHC. And what I'm told is there's more flexibility than the examples that they've provided, but it can kind of give you an idea of where we can go with this. So first of all, like, what is the Housing Accelerator Fund? It's many things, but the purpose of the Housing Accelerator Fund is to incentivize the construction of housing above and beyond what otherwise may occur. And that's a really important point of emphasis. So Watson Lake, for example, has a natural growth rate, which I was able to pull your guys's permit data. So I'll get to that. What is key to understand here, guys, is it's really about what we can do above and beyond that natural growth rate, or that average growth rate that Watson Lake experiences anyways. So you can just kind of think of it in that way. There would be the portion of units that the Housing Accelerator Fund might apply to would not be all the units that get built in Watson Lake in a single year or get renovated into residential housing or whatever. We call those half incented units, which I'll get to later, and those are the ones we can get funding for. Okay, half incented units, and those are above the average, above what you guys typically do in a year, which I'll get to. Does that make sense? Save your questions for the end, and then we'll talk about it. It's confusing. Like, I've been on like 3 meetings, Cam has 2. It's confusing. I'm trying to break it down to what's simple here.
Appreciate that.
How much money is available? Okay, so the full fund, I think, is $27 billion over like 10 or 15 years or something like that. The tranche we're dealing with right now, which applications will be open for in around July 1st, is $4 billion. So that's kind of the amount of money available, and that's Canada-wide. So Yukon doesn't have an allocation, Whitehorse or Watson Lake doesn't have an allocation. It's competitive, although I've been told there's a strong desire to see money flow to the north, and there's a strong desire to see money flow into smaller communities other than Whitehorse. So I think, that's really the gravitas for you guys, is like there's an opportunity here. You guys have been grappling with housing issues and that for as long as you've been on council. And there's an opportunity here to get some funds that we may not have otherwise had to help out with some of that. And it could be a significant amount of funds depending on what we want to put forward. So what can it fund? I think at a 30,000 foot level, it's any project, action, or thing that will increase the supply of housing in Watson Lake. And there's going to be a bunch of caveats to this, but generally speaking, like that is the purpose of the fund, is to increase the supply of housing across Canada, including Watson Lake. So CMHC provides some examples of what type of activities could fit underneath that in terms of incenting housing, and it's pretty wide open. You guys probably can't read this, but I'll just read it for you. Sorry, let's move this over to the side. These are right from CMHC's literature that they've provided to us. And they said, for example, these type of things would be eligible. And these are some I pulled out. It's not comprehensive, but I thought were kind of like along the lines of what Watson Lake was thinking. So I'll just go for that. So number 1 is implementing incentives, costing, or fee structures. For example, density bonusing to encourage such things as affordable housing and conversions from non-residential to residential. So you can think about that as providing grants, et cetera, to encourage housing. Encouraging alternative forms of housing construction, such as modular, manufactured, and prefabricated housing. So again, that could be a grant, it could be a policy action. But I think what I've heard so far from council is, they would like to do that more direct benefit if it's possible, like flow some money into the community to help this problem, I guess is what I could say. It could also allow partnering with nonprofit housing providers to preserve and increase the stock of affordable housing. So I know there was just a tiny bit of discussion about a development corporation. That is something that could possibly fit underneath there. So flowing money to the development corporation who has a mandate to increase the supply of housing in Watson Lake. Construction of affordable housing, repair or modernization of affordable housing, land or building or acquisition for affordable housing. So affordable has a definition. I'm not sure what CMHC is, but it's, I'm not even going to say, but there would be some criteria for affordable housing as well. Like, I'm not sure. So market housing and affordable are different, and I'm not sure where council's priorities are. It seems to me, just from like my knowledge of the community, that like Yukon Housing and other providers do provide some amount of affordable housing. I don't know whether that meets the needs of the community or not, but I think there are other people doing that. And what I think I've heard is market housing is something that we'd be angling for. It can also support infrastructure. So drinking water, wastewater, solid waste, public transit, community energy, disaster mitigation, brownfield redevelopment, broadband, capacity building. So capacity building within your organization, and site prep for housing development. So clearing land, leveling it, putting in services, that type of thing. Oops. So where is Watson Lake at today? Here's your residential building permit data. It goes back a number of years. I just pulled the last 3 years. In 2021, you had 16 residential permits. And this is just YG's data. I don't know how accurate this is, but this is what they provide. 16 residential, and we're just looking at residential. There's also institutional, there's commercial, and there's industrial, which are a separate category, which we're not really worried about right now. So 16 residential permits in 21, 23 residential permits in 2020. So you've got that COVID bump in 2020 when everybody was home. And then in 2019, you had 10 permits. So I did the incredibly complex NASA math of adding those all together and dividing it by 3. And you guys get you see about 16 residential permits per year. It's actually 16.3, but whatever, let's call it 16. So a way to think about this, guys, is that we need where the money is going to come is whatever we can provide above that 16, if that makes sense. So half won't necessarily support our natural growth rate. It is meant to accelerate the growth rate beyond what would naturally occur, right? So if we can put together a plan that says, well, we think we can, with this plan, that can put on 25 units, well, then 9 would be eligible. 9 would be eligible for the grant, if that makes sense. So it's really above and beyond, and in the north, the Housing Accelerator Fund can provide about $40,000 per additional unit. So if we just took our example of 9, what's 9 times 4? 18, $360,000 in potential half money. If we can show a reasonable plan, that is going to lead to that 25 or whatever the number is that we land on.
Jordan, can I just make a comment about that permit number? That number isn't builds. That number consists of garages, decks, renovations on other properties that meets current code. So it's a flawed number, because if you were looking at actual builds in the community, over the years, we've averaged maybe 1 new build a year. So to double it, we'd be going to 2. The rest aren't residential properties, right?
Okay, so like from CMHC, as far as I understand, they're using residential permit data. So I'll have to clarify that with Jillian. That's what I pulled. Yeah. And you're right, Cam. I had that question as well. Is it building starts? Is it housing starts? Is it what's included in there? Right. So
we haven't had 16 vacant lots in months.
I was surprised at the numbers too. So let me clarify that with Jillian, what data they're actually going to look at. So 16 total residential, whatever. They said they're just going to look at residential building permits. So I don't know if that's the number they're going to look at. I'll find out from CMHC. But if it's 1, it's anything above 1, right? If it's whatever, it's just think about it that way. It needs to be above and beyond what naturally occurs in the community. That's the easy way to say it. In context of the application, this number of 16, it could be different, and I'll clarify that with Jillian how we get to the actual number. But again, which I've been saying, your application needs to show how you will increase building permits above 16 per year. This is where it gets into what are you even talking about? Your application needs to show how actions will help Watson exceed the 6-month moving average of the seasonally adjusted annual growth rate for housing in Canada. So this is where we get into the federal government, very confusing, convoluted lingo. So there is national housing growth targets that we also need to demonstrate that we can exceed within this application as well. And as I mentioned, up to $40,000 per half incented unit, and that is above and beyond. That is a unit that was approved under our application. There's up to $40,000 per unit, so it's not an insignificant amount of money. What do we need to move forward with an application? So from council, we need that direction on a minimum of 5 initiatives that can reasonably lead to increasing the residential permits pulled in Watson Lake, issuing some number above 16 permits a year. And again, that number could change once we get down to what we're actually looking at. Housing needs assessment, there's a question mark there. It's an automatic 5 points on your application if you have a housing needs assessment. I don't know if you guys do or if that's something you want to do. But we've been provided some examples and they don't look too terribly difficult. It might be something we could do within the scope of this application. I'm not sure. CMHC will need a council resolution. So I did learn that the CAO and CFO can sign for the application initially, but eventually they will need a council resolution. So that's no big deal. We'll just bring the application forward to a meeting. We need to prepare the application and submit it for around July 1st, 2023. So the application window is not currently open, but we've been told it will be opening at the end of June, early July. And I do feel like it's important that we're one of the first to submit, because we have the opportunity then to get feedback and amend our application. The application window is only open for 45 days, if you can believe that. It's a $4 billion fund. So we really need to have our pencil sharpened here if we want to move forward and try to get this money into the community. And I just wrote here, like, no commitment of funds or budget required at this time. There's a small cost for Karen and I's assistance in doing the application, but other than that, we're not asking for any commitment of funds or anything at this point. We're essentially asking for council's ideas on what best could be suited, or general direction. Even if you don't have the 5 exact things, just say, like, it's about helping with down payments, it's about like new construction, and that would probably be enough for us to go back and do something and provide something else to you that you can, something more detailed that you guys can look at. And I think, like, that's all I want to hammer you with right now. Basically, there's this fund, we're in a good position to capitalize on it. I feel like, we could get this money into the community to help out these housing initiatives that you guys have been grappling with. And we're really just looking for that approval and direction by council to say, like, yes, this is a good idea, go forth. These are some of our ideas on what we'd like to see in there. And that will probably be enough direction for us to go away and do something and come back to you with a draft proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess my question is, when would you need to have that information by?
Like
Today.
yesterday would be good. As soon as you can. And I get guys, like, I don't want you to spend a ton of time on being like, let's do this, that, and the other. Like, general direction is good enough. But I think I'm at a bit of a standstill almost until we kind of land on what those things are that council really wants to pursue. So just considering it needs to be submitted in a month, we have about 3 weeks to come up with those things, and for you to get those to us. Yeah.
Okay, just because I know that Mayor Urban obviously had a couple of ideas. Unfortunately, as you know, he's not here. And I think that we need to have obviously like a conversation about, some things. I don't think that I think we're obviously in favor of like putting the application in. Like, I think that's not a question, but like, would the next council meeting be?
Yeah.
That's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we could do it in 2 weeks for sure. And I think in the meantime, like, what I could do is I can get you guys kind of all the information if you want to read through it. There's tons. You can do that on your leisure, and just, and you would probably have a better sense of like what the program is and isn't. And if we could get, and I can ask you guys some questions just to kind of get like more direct feedback that's going to be useful for us. And if we could accomplish that in 2 weeks, I feel comfortable with that.
I think that would be really great. Everyone agree?
Yeah.
Just some preliminary, just so I can kick it around in my head. Jordan, with the funds that would be, let's just say we got approved. So we had 25 builds and we got $360,000. Would that go to the town of Watson Lake to distribute, or would that go to CMHC, or would that go to like Yukon Housing, or like who would be in control of divvying out that money?
Good question, Thomas. Thank you. Or Councillor Slager. Yeah, so the town of Watson Lake would be the recipient. And in order to be eligible to apply for this funding, you need to be, I can't remember the words they use, but essentially like you're in control of where housing gets built in your community. So municipal governments, in some cases, First Nation governments, and other type of like regional governments and that kind of thing. So Watson Lake would receive those funds. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else?
No, the other thing that I'm thinking about is how do we decide, like, if we have 16, and like, the first 16 people that have their act together, you don't get anything, but the last 9 do, like, how do we decide, or do we just say, if we, once we meet this threshold, we will divide it evenly amongst the 25 applicants, even though the first 16 aren't eligible? I don't know, like, how do you know what I mean?
I think there's, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that I need to read a little bit more about the program and the information that you provide.
Yeah, there you go.
Really, know how to.
Answer that. No, agreed.
Yeah. Counselor Slager, I could just say too, like, yeah, like all those details would be important, and particularly like on what program or activities or actions you guys choose. I mean, if we land on building infrastructure to support housing, and you guys feel like that's the best path forward, then that's not a concern. If we go more of a grant route, then we need to figure out an equitable program. It's totally possible. We don't have those details right now, though. Yeah.
Anybody else questions?
No.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Jordan and Karen, and do you have anything else? Jordan?
No, Karen, did you want to say anything? Sorry, I didn't.
No, not at all. That was great. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So we'll, I guess we'll just wait
Yeah.
to get the information from you
Yep.
and,
I'll
Yeah.
send that email by hopefully like tomorrow or the next day, but like definitely by the end of the week, you'll have that information in your inbox, and then that will give you guys a week to review, and then just come with your ideas for the next council meeting. Well, I'll hop on, and if you guys think that discussion might take a bit longer, we can also do it before the next council, or like an hour before or whatever. Just totally up to you. I'm flexible. Here to support you guys.
awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Oh.
Hey,
Justin, the buildings, we're having a meeting, Justin, you have to go.
I can see that.
Okay.
Hey, Justin Stone. Hello. Hey, Justin.
Justin.
There. You know,
Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Thank you,
Great night.
guys.
take care.
Take care. Bye.
All right. So we'll just take a 60-second break. So Pam comes back.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about the whole housing thing, because like the Yukon housing initiative that they had before was based on like rentals at market value. They made it very onerous, and
Is it the rental incentive thing that you're talking
it
about?
was terrible to deal with. And like you'd phone and you'd say, hey, can I talk to anyone that knows about this? Anyone. And you'd just get ghosted. It was a terrible, like as far as the real, I don't know, it was frustrating, I'll say that, and it led to nowhere.
Pam,
So if it's anything like that, we shouldn't do it.
Oh, it's my turn?
moving on to the CAO report, if you're ready.
Well, just right back from CAMA, which is the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators Conference in Ontario. So it's really good presentations and some really good contacts, which we've actually started looking into using some of the connections I made. So part of it is towards some of the priorities council was working on. So like the research firms and that type of thing. Technology, so we can store a gallery you can see and hear. So those type of things, but I will enlighten council later about that. So the other thing that's been going on is that I'm very happy to say that our new rec programmer, Melanie Vogel, started last week. So she's on day 4 today. And so, which is really nice to see. She's currently working on Canada Day, which is a huge priority to everybody. And and then working towards other planning. Our new receptionist at the rec center started as well. Kelly, and I honestly don't know Kelly's last name.
Is it Kayla?
It's Kelly.
Okay.
So yeah, currently we're fully staffed, which is nice. And Northern Light Center is open and I was there last night, talked to a few people from California that were taking in the show. They were very impressed with our facility. So we're encouraging people to get the word out. We did have the open house last week for 3 days. Some nights, some shows it wasn't very well attended by local people, but you know, at least we put the option out there for people who don't. Tomorrow is EMO sort of a tabletop exercise with the parties that are all listed in our emergency plan. Just to go over their roles and get feedback as to what's changed and what needs to be updated from their organizations. And as of 4 o'clock, the pool was half full of water. And we're making strides getting it there. And also our flower order arrived. So we're making some really good headway. And Public Works did 2 water line repairs last week, which dropped our consumption by 400,000 liters.
Ooh.
So 400 cube. So a cube is 1,000 liters. And they started on another dig today. There was some equipment issues, so everything's been resolved, and they're going to go back to the dig tomorrow to hopefully get it done. And then we've got another 3 digs in the queue to do yet to try and get our water numbers down. We're working with consultants on our landfill lease and also the submissions for landfill lease and the renewal of our solid waste permit. So there's a bunch of stuff in the queue, and I have a consultant working on our water license renewal at this time as well. So there's a lot of balls up in the air, regulatory stuff right now that we're trying to get through. And the water license is the key one. That last license was only renewal for 5 years when we asked for 25. And so now we're back trying to get it to the 25-year license stage.
That's what the reason for that is, why they would.
Maybe you don't remember, but it was when they did that. That was because they didn't believe our hydrogeological assessment that had been done for the lagoon areas. And we presented the documentation, different hydrological and test well results going back to 1974. And the water board came back and thought the information was flawed. So they ordered another hydrogeological assessment and more monitoring wells. So we complied, we put them all in, provide them with information. And the information in the new wells and the new hydrological survey mirrored the report going back to 1974, but it was a huge cost on the municipality. You know, the cost of doing monitoring wells is astronomical, and then the hydrological assessment and review, and we tried to head that off when we heard that they were looking at that, and we had an expert actually weigh in and give expert opinion on it, and they still ruled against it. So now we're going back with a complete that information again and the water monitoring results from the last 3-4 years now, and putting a new package in. So
There's no really any reason why
we have no idea what they're gonna rule or deal with. It's a crapshoot. But you know, all I can do is rely on the best information that our best package we can provide. And if there's something that our consultant she's going through stuff, if she's something that she's even questioning on, we're going in and making sure that we've got documentation to back it up. There's some results like volumes, there's some discrepancies in, and it was due to the way that the water the lift station metering system was built. That the meter resets after so many thousands of liters go through and it resets. And if our staff, when they go in the next day, if the number's close to what it was before, they just assume that it was a continuation. So we ended up with a discrepancy in the numbers that were going through the lift station and what was coming out at the lagoon. So we had to go back and we've got the experts to actually give us the opinion and explain why, so we can submit that with the report. But, you know, to get away from those kind of discrepancies, it would cost us thousands of dollars to replace the metering system or the data logger that's at the water treatment plant. So, or at the lift station, sorry. And so just goofy little things like that, we're trying to, you know, put stopgaps in before we get there. And, yeah, so we're working towards all those things and getting that in place. We're still chasing the end of the deficiencies that are the deficiencies at the municipal services property and get the lots and those last things looked at there as well. The deadline was, or as far as I know, is still standing as June 30th. To get that, but I'll get an update on Friday on that. And the water and sewer upgrades, phase one, stage one, it closed last Thursday. And I do know, or I can say that there was two bids that were received and they're under review right now to confirm that they're in compliance and within budget. So I'll hopefully know more on that on Friday. So it looks good from what I've seen. Everything hopefully should point towards shovels in the ground fairly shortly. So,
Awesome.
yeah, so that's it for now. Pending questions later.
Okay, thank you.
And also, and just for the record, I do start holidays on Friday and Shannon will be acting CAO till I return July 3rd.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so we will move on to the admin report for the community service grants. So this was prepared for us by administration. So the purpose of this report is to advise council of the applications received for the community services grant. Admin have reviewed the reports received and have outlined the eligible amounts and attached those applications to the package. So the background on this is in 2021, council created the community services grant policy so that they could review the financials of each organization when determining eligibility for tax forgiveness. So based on that policy, Shannon has outlined the amount that each of the organizations is eligible for. And the recommendation here is that council approve the community services grant for nonprofit associations based on the information provided in the applications.
Make a motion to approve the recommendation provided by.
Your worship, sorry to interrupt, but your worship, I think for the record, you should read in what the organizations are and.
Sure.
amounts.
I can do that. Can you put that on hold for 1 sec?
Yeah.
Okay, so the application that we received, one was from the Watson Lake Outdoor Rec Association. Should I do the amounts as well?
Yes, please.
So their total taxes due were $1,108.41. Their total revenue assets total $22,311.81. So they're eligible to have their full tax amount, a grant for their full tax amount. Next is the Watson Lake Ski Club, and their total taxes are $1,100 for the year. Their revenue and assets total $319,385.22. And their grant amount, they're eligible for the full $1,100. There's also the Watson Lake Riding Association. Their total taxes are $3,889.54. Their total revenue and assets are $201,437.13. And they're eligible for the full amount of $3,889.54. And then the last one was the Signpost Seniors Association / daycare. And their total taxes for the year are $11,249.97. Their total revenue and assets are $1,146,850.17. And so they are eligible for $5,624.99 towards their taxes.
One thing I have a question with, what's the categories like when,
So in the policy, it's based on their revenue and their revenue and the amount of their assets. And what differentiates the Signpost Seniors Association is the fact that the daycare is attached to them in the same building. So that's what changes.
that's for their assets, that's so high and.
Well, their assets, but not only that, but their revenue base and stuff. So it's a whole different thing. It's just the seniors that own the building, but it's a joint ownership.
Okay, I see.
Any other conversation around that?
Make a motion to approve the grant amount as per our policy, as stated in the recommendation from Shannon Bergeron. Under report number 23-06.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. All right. So moving on, we have bylaw 99-17 being the volunteer fire department bylaw. So this is a bylaw that has not been reviewed, or sorry, this came into effect the 18th of January 2000. So this is a 23-year-old bylaw. And so
Your worship,
Thank you.
Your worship, for the record, the bylaws were presented to our volunteer firefighters along with the chief. And for feedback, there's some things in it, but just a little bit out of date. And it was just one of those bylaws that was on the list to come forward. And so I think in discussions with the firefighters, we're willing to accept feedback until the fall. You guys come back in the summer.
okay,
But it's on here, you did first reading, so it's releasable to the public for feedback as well. See if they want any other types of changes from the community as a large in it. And then also for council to give feedback as well towards this, if there's anything. But it's on here for discussion and then also tabling to a council meeting in the fall that allow that feedback to come. I know the chief has a meeting with the deputy chief and captains tomorrow night. And then they're also waiting on the other members of the fire department that was all provided to them last Thursday.
Yeah, I gave them 16 copies to Mike to hand out to everybody, so. And I just told them that it was very important for sure to have like the chiefs or the chief
captain.
captains and deputy chief to really give us the most feedback out of it, because they'll be doing most of the delegation to the other members, so.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it'd be really important to get that feedback from them because obviously they
They use it.
most knowledgeable. I mean, just without knowing anything about internal fire things, I don't think doesn't seem like there's that much wrong with it. So, other than like you said, that there's just a few things that are maybe just out of date. I do have a question. There are 2 fire bylaws. Is there a reason for that?
Well, one is our fire protection bylaw, which
Right.
talks about inspections and that type of thing. Truthfully, could they be amalgamated into one? They maybe could be. I just haven't had a chance to look at it as well. So that's something that we can, administration might make a recommendation to make them as a bylaw. But
Okay.
it's something that would come forward, prior to the meeting in the fall.
We're kind of jumping ahead, but that was one of the things that Mike had suggested. He's like, for example, he talks about the establish a fire department bylaw, fire protection and life safety bylaw and volunteer fire department bylaw might be able to be combined somehow. And so I'm not sure if that's something to look at as well at the same time as this. Maybe look at those other bylaws and see if there is if that's something we want to do,
And
or
that's,
look at this in its entirety. Like, that's what I'm asking.
yeah, so that's what Lauren just, her worship just mentioned. That's where something that, administration will look at and make a recommendation back to council. And then we would probably look at bringing it back to council for the committee of the whole meeting in September, which should be 5th.
So are you encouraging us then to review these bylaws as well?
Well, I can provide, council, and the council actually has access to the life safety bylaw in the budget, in your shared drive. So it doesn't hurt to take a look at it as well.
Do we have access to all of them?
Yeah,
Just that one?
yeah.
Oh, we
You
do.
have access to
Okay,
every
that's what
one.
I thought. That's what I thought. Okay.
So just to clarify, it'll be, the committee of the whole meeting in September for discussion again or
Yes.
second
No,
reading?
for discussion.
Okay,
We should have feedback from the fire.
and then ideally second, because I think you mentioned that you wanted us to pick a date for second reading. Would that be this regular meeting of September, or do you think that's a little bit?
I think that would be pushing it.
Okay.
I think if council just tables it to September 5th for now. And then at that meeting, the motion can be discussed as to when you want to table it next. Because I don't want to put firm tight deadlines in if there's discussion still going back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay,
And if we get feedback, who are we giving it to?
yeah, who do we
Well,
give some feedback to for the?
It would come to me.
Because I remember last time, I think Tiffany, maybe it was you and Shannon, I don't know, but I thought or maybe it was you and Cam, I'm not sure, made it kind of a spreadsheet.
Oh, that was the cemetery bylaw.
Yes, so if it comes back to myself and Tiffany and I will make sure it gets in the right spot, so it's tabulated for council to review.
Perfect, thank you.
That should be at the 5th.
Okay, so I guess if we're all in agreement with that, can we get a motion to table to the September 5th committee of the whole meeting?
At the table, or do we have to motion the first reading to have it opened up?
We already did first
We
reading.
did the last meeting, council signed.
Oh, sorry.
So it would just be a motion to table it till the September 5th.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll just move on to what Councilor Burkett was referencing a moment ago, which is an email from our community advisor, Michael Prowse. Is he with us? No.
No.
Should I just read this? Or,
It's-
so basically there are, or unless you want to speak to it. I'll let you.
Yeah, your worship, I can speak to it if that makes it any easier. So, and community services or community affairs was looking at ways to assist us, taking stuff off our plate. So one of the things that I asked was that if they wanted to, they could take a look at all our bylaws to see if they're applicable and in standard with the current acts and current practice of the day. So Michael Prowse went through all our bylaws and give a little summary of which was provided to council of bylaws that have maybe some of it's just clerical errors, some of it's legislative errors. So some of the bylaws reference sections of the municipal act which are no longer in effect. So really that could set us up for our bylaw not being in effect. So there's going to be some that's going to have to be updated is what I'm trying to say. Thank you, Councilor Sager. Is because of the fact that if we're referencing the authority as a certain section of the municipal act and it's not there, that means that our bylaw truthfully doesn't have the teeth where it should be. So what I want to do is I want to go through the ones and bring the ones that reference improper municipal act for you for amendments, so that way we can make sure that they're in effect properly. A lot of them, there won't be many changes. Some of them, maybe there needs to be more than a reference done because there's things like in the Animal Control Act, they refer to dogs not as service dogs, right? You know, so they see eye dogs, that type of thing. So getting into doing with where we're at now and goofy little things like the Dog Act talks about you can have cannot have a leash longer than 2 meters. So things that aren't applicable in today's society.
Mhm.
So if we're going in to fix the authority, that would be the time to address them. And a lot of the bylaws, there isn't many things in them that need to be corrected. But I think the ones that do need to come are, like I say, are the ones that the authorities are out of sync. And in that spreadsheet that was provided with you, you can see which ones they are. And as we discussed in council's revisit of the strategic plan last night, it would be a good time to bring these in to help fill some of the void meetings. So that way we're actually getting them accomplished before the end of your term as well. And then that way it's setting up the community or the next council for, you know, coming into something that's up to date.
At a previous meeting, we had discussed something similar before I even knew that Mike sent this, but we had discussed, you know, before end of term, like going through all of the bylaws that, you know, not unlike the one we were looking at tonight that haven't been updated basically in 10, 20 years. Were there any, sorry, and you at that time had mentioned that there were just a few that you could think of the top of your head. And I'm just wondering if there were any, in your opinion, that need to be reviewed that aren't on this list.
No, this is a comprehensive review of all our active bylaws, actually.
Okay.
This in the spreadsheet. So, like I said, I would start with the ones that the authorities are out of whack, and one is the bylaw, the fire bylaw we just talked about. It's a 1999 bylaw, and it's referencing the wrong municipal act.
Right.
The municipal act that it was written for is no longer in effect. It was repealed. So that is something that needs to be addressed, right? So a lot of it, I'd say, are pretty general, but the rest of them, some of them are new, right? So when you did the review, we did the reviews zoning bylaw, and it's up to date and current, right? So I think I would, you know, start with some of the really easy ones, and then some of these other ones we will have an admin report completed to come back to council with recommendations, and then council can discuss them at various community of the whole meetings moving forward.
Okay, so you don't really need us to do anything tonight, and you'll bring them forward when.
If that's fine with council, that's why it's on here, is for direction. If you agree that we should get these so that we're compliant with at least the right act or authority that they fall under, then we will start bringing them forward.
I mean, I 100% agree with that.
Absolutely.
Need a motion?
Our liability. I mean, if our bylaws aren't up to, or if our bylaws aren't up to code or up to our, then we're liable.
Yeah, like
They're no longer valid.
I personally would like to see everything that's, I don't know what's a reasonable amount of time, what's considered old or out of date, but I'd personally like to see everything updated or modernized or whatever the term is for it, so.
Yeah, so alls I need is just direction to administration to review the zoning bylaws and bring them forward as recommended.
Zoning?
So we need to make a motion.
Sorry.
I was reading something on the computer.
I was like, I thought we were done with that.
No.
Make a motion for that?
It would just be a motion to direct administration to start working.
Can we start with the garbage pile?
Can somebody,
I'll make
Make
a motion,
that we
but,
start with the garbage pile to review.
but I'm just not quite sure how to make that motion. So I motion that administration review the bylaws as stipulated that are outside of the municipal act and update them.
That works.
I'll second.
thank you, all in favor? Thanks. Sounds great, thank you, CAO. Okay, so that,
So Mike has gone through all of our bylaws, Ken, already?
That's that list that's in the spreadsheet, yes.
Okay, well, then it's not too many then that are
No,
defunct, so that's good.
So that is it for our agenda items this evening.
So,
No, the donation.
Oh, sorry. Psych. One more. There's a request for a donation from the Watson Lake Outdoor Recreation Association. So they are having an event in November 2023. They're hosting a wild food banquet. And they are seeking a donation in any way towards the event.
Where are they having the event?
Yeah.
Could we donate the rec center, like the?
That's what they're asking.
Well, it doesn't say what they're asking,
It says a donation of any kind. It actually isn't clear at all what they're
Yeah.
seeking.
so can we donate that to them? I think that'd be an easy one to do.
I'll make a motion that we donate the rental of the hall plus $200 to the Watson Lake Outdoor Recreation Association.
So if we make a recommendation to donate $200, where does that $200 come from?
They, wherever they see fit.
Where does it come from?
Where does it come?
If it comes out of our PR budget,
Yes, your worship, it would come out of the council, PR.
And is those things that we normally do out of
it's
our?
$10,000.
Do we have that in there?
Well, a lot of that money, yeah, so you have two budgets, right? Did you get two budget lines this year? So the $10,000 went towards AYC.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, it's been other stuff coming out of it, but I believe there's $2.
Okay.
That's what council wishes.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thanks.
How much is it, to remind me, how much is it to cut, rent out the rec center?
Your worship, the one day rental with the kitchen is $300.
Now that was the last agenda item. So remove Counselor from board.
Yeah, sorry. The other question I have is they have recommended us do the fire chiefs conference here. Have you heard anything more about that?
Well, they didn't recommend it. They reached out to me to see who wanted to host it.
Oh, okay.
So, of course, I was gladly to host the fire chiefs conference here. Colin is working with the Fire Chiefs Association, working on organization. It would be like 40 people here for 3 days for their conference, and which is nice because they always go to Dawson City.
Yeah, they do.
So to get them to come down, and the reason that it actually came forward was the fact that the president of the Fire Chiefs Association was here as a trade booth at our AYC conference and seeing what could be done in Watson Lake. He was very impressed, and so he contacted me and asked if we'd be in support or willing to host, and it was lucky because the rec center wasn't booked for those dates, which would have been a stumbling block. And then the other thing was finding Peter, and they've been in contact with Lisa Gifford already. So that's nice. And then the other thing that we're on that same sort of strain, they run the Embers Fire Camp College or camp for women, and we're discussing about hosting it in the future as well.
Oh, no.
So that would bring a whole bunch of people back to extra people to Watson Lake. So which is really nice. And yeah, sorry.
Do we do anything with that?
So with that, it's they're gonna host, they usually do a firefighter competition, which would be like vehicle extrication games and that type of thing. We're working with Colin to see what they need or require. And that's early in the stages of organization right now, so I will update council as it goes.
When does that usually happen?
It is August 20, the sort of that last third week of August, I think.
Oh, okay.
We're coming up quick.
Anyone else? Counselor from Form?
like 5 things. We got a couple of light poles around town that are like half there.
Those are for replacement.
That's, okay, so we're doing that?
No, your worship, those aren't our poles, those are
ATCO.
ATCO.
Oh, okay,
So those were involved in collisions, so there's insurance claims and ATCO replaces them.
okay,
So one was ours, caused by our equipment. The other one was caused by Department of Highways. So we're dealing with our insurance and with ATCO on that.
that, and I was just thinking about like the roof at the ski hill. Our plan to just put shingles over top of the tin, and I was looking at the tin and I was like. I don't know, it just doesn't seem right, is all I gotta say about that. Are you sure that's the right move?
Well, based on the expert's opinion, yes.
Okay, also our grader that we had, parks, we were looking at. We figured out what was wrong with it, did we get the grader up and running again, like, what was the end result there?
When it overheated, the one.
Yeah.
When it overheated, it was a coolant line that was plugged up.
Okay.
Has caused issues, so the grader's fixed and, yeah, back in
And then-
service.
The last two things I have, the letter that we received from our Captain Jason Kearns of the fire department, did we come together, did we
Oh, yeah, we need to pick a date for that.
Well,
pick a date?
where the chief is having a meeting with the deputy chief of townhouse tomorrow. And then from there, there's a plan to have a meeting with myself. And the chief and the same crew when I get back in July.
Gotcha.
And then we'll go from there, and was discussed,
Alright.
Okay,
And-
so,
because it's on that line of where you guys are crossing into my world again, right?
Gotcha.
Which I don't wanna be, so.
yeah, 100%. So happy to hear it. Okay.
Alright, and last thing is. Have we given some collective thought about the user agreement with schools and our facilities during this school year? Because prior to that, it was a, you know. Your parents pay taxes here. You're in the school session, like to go down for a skate or bowling or whatever. We were gonna like have that as kind of like a free thing.
Well,
We had
your worship, there's never been an agreement in the time I've been in this chair with the schools. So it would be something that would have to be discussed. We've reached out to First Nation in education because it's no longer YG anymore, and it's not high on their priority list at the moment. So I know the principals would like something and some of the teachers, but until we can negotiate.
they want to see an actual agreement is what
Yeah.
you're saying, but currently they just use it, right?
Well,
Like, we
there's
just-
a minimal
charge them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
okay.
we're not charging them the full rate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's something that, and it's the same group that I'm trying to renegotiate the district heating agreement. And it's just, nobody seems to know who's in charge and who's doing what right now. And it's just be circling around. But I've instructed the principals to reach out to me if there's something that they wanna do. You know, of course, we want the facilities, and now we have the rec programmer, so that bridge should be crossed or
Gotcha.
bridged, that gap should be bridged.
So we've got a couple months to figure it out.
I didn't think it was free though. I thought we were looking at different options.
Well, yeah,
I think they get to educate, like, the First Nation school would pay sort of X amount to make it free for the
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
Right, like, I
Sure.
think that's what,
yeah.
the idea is.
Yeah, it wasn't just that it was free.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Good for me, thank you.
I just had two little ones, so I did go to the Northern Lights open house. I thought it was awesome, so thank you for that. And then I just have a quick question about the EMO tabletop tomorrow. I'm just wondering if is the mayor gonna attend? Unfortunate, the timing, just
Well-
because for at least my own personal work situation.
Yes,
So-
and I totally understand that, and the reason it was scheduled so quickly was because of my direction of council.
Yeah,
And the fact that we're about wildfire and stuff, but
when I.
all the other agencies that are there are on work time, and I can't get them to come on their off time, that's the other.
For sure, but I'm just wondering if anybody is going.
Chris, I think is one.
Okay.
Well, and it's only limited to people that are named in the plan, so hence the mayor has a role and the deputy mayor has a role.
For sure, but if,
The rest of the councillors
but
don't.
if neither of those people were going, I guess I would want to make sure that there was
I'm pretty sure.
someone.
Mayor is
That's,
gonna-
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all from me.
And your worship, I did miss one thing that I was gonna read in
Sure.
as well. We did receive, a letter, from, Kate White, leader of the NDP, not the third. So it states, dear Mayor and Council, I want to thank you all and your staff for hosting the fantastic AYC annual general meeting this past weekend. It was great to see so many elected municipal members attending along with staff and guests. The speakers, workshops, and presentations were interesting and informative. Kudos to your staff, caterers, and a big cheer for the organizers of the Watson Lake Dare. The Pointer Sisters had a great time participating in that adventure, traveling around the town and visiting the many historical and interesting sites. Reminded me not only of Watson Lake's historical past, but the beauty and vitality of Watson Lake today. Again, thank you for the great weekend.
Oh, that was nice. Awesome. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to gallery open forum. So I guess we'll start with maybe our one person on,
Colleen.
On
actually
Zoom.
She
Oh.
put in, your worship saying that she had no comment.
okay, thanks Colleen for coming. So we have two people in the gallery, so in person, so gallery. Over to you.
I just have a couple of little things. I wondered if, council has heard anything on the, Francis Avenue extension.
Your worship, I can, speak to that.
Thank you.
The tender is currently out for the lift station. Colleen, that was Patty McLeod, sorry. The tender is out for the lift station right now, and the other work apparently is supposed to be in the tender process and going out as well. Because they were trying to wrap it into getting the best bang for the buck with our other infrastructure project.
So we don't have a date on that yet, when we may expect it to go to tender.
Honestly, I have an email from a French person, I just got it, and I haven't had a chance to follow up with them. But the plan was, the last I spoke to him was that the lift station and it were all gonna go out pretty well right up one after the other, and the lift station, I think, went out last week. And it was to follow in with our in-ground infrastructure to get the best, hopefully to get the same contractor to take on that work to drive the price down.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So my next comment, I guess, was about this rapid housing initiative, and then I take Thomas's point very well, that I hope that there's some measure of fairness implemented along with anything council might be considering, because for one, there's been no consultation with the people that might want to undertake this work. So personally, I think that's pretty key. Because you don't actually know what direction town wants to go, and I don't think that housing needs assessment is going to offer much guidance in that regard. So I guess that's a recommendation for me, is to consult with people. And second is to have an attitude that's fair, because, you know, giving grants to people to build a house may not be fair to those people that didn't get one to build a house. So, you know, I think that's, so there may be other ways to do that, and one might be taxation and whatnot, so anyway.
Yeah, and your worship, just to follow up on that, the problem with this whole rapid housing initiative is the fact that it was released so suddenly and with such tight deadlines, like it's.
I feel like that's the point. Do you know what I mean? So that,
Yeah, because I don't know how you can do a fruitful consultation with your community based on the 45-day window to get your application in, right? It's tough. But anyways, yes, we're trying to look at all avenues of that from the administration side.
anything else? You sure? Not one more thing?
You know,
Okay, Janice.
I like to ask about the duck field again. I know Councillor Burdette brought it up a couple weeks ago, and then Daniel Lockwood said something about getting calcium to fix it, but why was Wash Rock put on in the first place? Why wasn't Standard Road brush used? Wash Rock is quite the private Standard Road. And I just like to know who picked up the difference. Contractor that did it, or was it town?
It was quoted at, as a road mix, and it was the contractor that subbed it in. And it was supposed to have the other fill in it to help it compact, so now we're in the process of getting it packed and trying to get
And
a
is the
base.
contractor picking that cost up?
Well, we're still negotiating on that side of it because, yeah, anyways, I'm waiting on my staff to come back with a report to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just, it's just an all road, and there's no reason.
No, I totally agree.
Okay, thank you. So if there's nothing else, we don't have anything in camera.
I do have something else. I just want to congratulate all the grads. Grade 12 this
Yes.
year. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're all right.
Congratulations, grads.
Mine already.
All right, so, since there's nothing else, we just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second, all in favor. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Nope, got a second.
Okay, you got it?
Yeah.